Hello people, I am Mr. Moff. I'm bringing you another 3 vs 3 in the Operation Market Garden mod for Company of Heroes. Today we are playing on Amphorville, so let's take a look at the players and get started. Over on the right we have Whiskey Pat playing as Armored. We've got his mechanized infantry here. In the middle we have Unlimited playing as RCA. We can see he's got the Devil's Brigade here that have been revamped. There was a patch recently. Devil's Brigade are different. There are 3 guys now, and other stuff was changed about them. I think they have Ranger Garons now? Anyway, on the left, we've got Stormtrout playing as Commandos with some Commandos and a 17-pounder. Over on the Axis, we have Roping Man on the right playing as Tank Busters. No, he's playing as Luftwaffe, but he has some Tank Busters and a Martyr. Ah, yes, and there's the Fallschirmjägers. In the middle, we've got Gobbo Slayer playing as Blitz. He's got some Grenadiers, some MP40s. Don't see those super often. Panzerschreck's pack gun. And on the left, we have Saavedra playing as Tank Hunters for actual. Starting with some half-tracks. These are G43s? No Panzerschrecks in that one? Or that one. Clearly I'm missing something. There's 2 squads in this, so maybe there's Panzerschrecks in there somewhere. Kite and Credit Scout and AT half-track, so very mechanized start from Saavedra. Let's switch back to the southern perspective again, just so that it's easier to see what's going on. So that we can see unit labels a little bit more easily. Put it back at 1x speed and get going. So, Unlimited getting very aggressive with his vehicles at the start, leaving all the rest of his units behind. Trying to get some mines down with these sappers. Meanwhile, on the left, Saavedra is trying to get a flank going with all these light vehicles. Fortunately, he's probably about to run into all these Piats from Stormtrout, and all these light vehicles are going to be in for a bad time. Let's real quick turn on the Fog of War and see when those get noticed. These sappers from Unlimited are going to want to get out of here, though, from all these MP40s. Let's turn the volume. Well, we'll keep an eye on the volume and consider turning it up. This seems a little bit quiet. Anyway, while that's going on the right, Roboman has run into Whiskey with his mechanized infantry and Sherman. But I want to see all these vehicles blow up real quick, and then we'll go check in on that. Oh, wow. These Commando Piats getting picked apart, actually, by the light AT half-track snipe. And these commandos using their fire-up from the lieutenant using his fire-up, I should say, and Stormtrout is routed, which is not the outcome I expected. Then again, he was playing 2-on-1. Over here on the right, looks like there's just some skirmishes going on. Whiskey Pat a little bit wary to get in close against these Panzerschrecks and put his tank in front of the Martyr. So he's just relying on that MG to be a barrier. Canister shot going off from the Stuart. Looks like he got 3 guys on there, 4 now with the main gun. But these Devil's Brigade are having a bad time. Those MP40's doing quite a bit of damage to them. They've lost 1 guy. They've still got their Johnson LMGs, but down to 1 guy, another light AT half-track snipe. And this Vickers has been decrewed. Not a whole lot of... not really any cheap squads to crew it again with. Looks like Whiskey is backing off. Let's turn the Fog of War back off, eh? Boy, that grenade landed on the mine. Big friendly fire from Stormtrout. They did lose the grenade squad, but those were probably going to die anyway. That was just sort of a latch-ditch thing. That's really unfortunate. For Stormtrout, allies are going to want to get a healing station up pretty soon to heal these commandos, but it is only the 1 squad. Anyway, Whiskey Pat now switching over here to get some sort of flank out on Robyman. Looks like Robyman is falling back, trying to lead the Sherman into the Martyr and get his teammates to collapse in on Whiskey's troops. So Whiskey is falling back. He's got the smoke off on the Sherman to fall back. There is the G40 Slee slow on these riflemen, but they managed to break line of sight, so that is well played from him. Grenade going off. Nice play with the grenade going off right when he sees this Volksgrenadier squad getting in. He does it early so that there's no time to dodge. Unfortunately for him, it doesn't kill any guys in the squad. And there are 2 PE players, so here's Saavedra with the medic half-track. Gobble Slayer can easily heal this squad. Meanwhile, the allies are steadily taking damage on their troops. We do have a CCS up from Unlimited, but of course the British CCS have limited healing, so Whiskey Pat is going to want to get these troops inside the heal radius to get them topped off. By limited healing, I mean, of course, there's like an active ability, limited duration. Piats from the Commandos do take out the Martyr, and that is going to be a big victory for this new stag hound from Stormtrout, as well as the Sherman, to try to pick apart some of these units before the Panzerschrecks are able to get in. But of course that big 50 cal from the Staghound, if they just sort of stay at range, that does pose a big threat to these Panzerschrecks anyway. So the guys are forming up to try to counterattack on these guys, and so Roboman is falling back, outnumbered with all these CQB squads. He's no match for that with his anti-tank call-in. Even with the Fallschirmjägers here, they're going to be no match for all of these SMGs. On the left here, Sev has an armored car in that's doing some decent damage, but Limited does have these anti-tank rifles that are pretty good against light vehicles. They just sort of do very reliable chip damage. Here comes an off-map decoy artillery barrage. I think the 25-pounder barrage not quite ready from Stormtrout. It is worth noting that Stormtrout, I believe, does not use, last I was aware, triangulation in his Commandos company, which is unusual. Usually triangulation is one of the first things that Commando players go for, but Stormtrout going all in on just sort of buffing his units, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what he has unlocked in his doctrines. But anyway, these poor mech-end from Whiskey, as well as potentially the Sherman, have gone down and might be about to go down. Nice rear armor hit from Saavedra. A lot of players have difficulty reversing tanks because there's no, unlike in Company Heroes 2, there's no reverse vehicle button. So unless you are very good at microwing rapid, very short range reverse orders behind your vehicle, or you have an auto hotkey script that lets you just sort of rapidly do it automatically, you get a lot of situations like this, where as you try to back up, you just show your rear armor. Although, of course, in fairness to the Staghound has uniquely terrible pathing and is very, very difficult to order in reverse. So, see, you can see like that. It does exactly that, right? Stormtrout had it going backwards for a bit, and then it just turns around. Anyway, Robovan on from Roboman, of course, as I'm sure everyone noticed, but it has taken some damage from the Staghound, and there's these Piats here, so he's going to want to back off. Stormtrout trying to use the smoke to get in close. Does get a couple shots off, and it does go down. Nice hit from these Piats, making an effective use of the commando smoke. Whiskey's MG here does go down. Not sure to what. There's a handful of things shooting at it, but guys didn't have a whole lot of health on their squad. Now, Stormtrout does want to be careful here, because if Saavedra is able to get his light AT snipe, oh, destroyed engine on the Sherman. If he's able to get the infantry snipe off cooldown on the light AT half-track, he could very easily pick off both of these squads, right? British LTs don't have that much health usually. I think Commandos gets an ability to give more health to officers. That seems like more than they should have, though. That might be a bug. I think I'll double check with development to see if that's the case. But anyway, at the very least could pick off this Commando guy who's only got 65 max health. Staghound getting aggressive, trying to get some hits in with the remainder of its health. Very carefully staying out of range of this light AT half-track, but right on the side. But there's this pack here. Does finish it off. Clears the way for Saavedra's armored cars to get in there and start doing some damage. These recon Tommies surely are toast here. Being pushed around. Here comes the artillery from Unlimited, who's surprised. 5 kills right off the bat. Doesn't quite get the hit on the retreating medic half-track. Medic half-tracks, of course, having a heavy damage resistance buff while they're deployed, but Saavedra deciding to pack it up and back it out instead. It does get away, and then he just sets it up back here, and all these troops are now healing. So, some decent kills. 5 and a tank, which is probably a support weapon. So, not too bad for the first barrage. But he's got his work cut out for him to make its money back and field presence, especially bringing it on only less than 10 minutes in, right? With 29 pop for the Allies, it's a big population sink. And here comes Saavedra's armored cars, still on. How are they doing? 2 and 13 kills. This one's doing very well for itself. You can see it's earned a bar of vet. But I suspect what he's doing, he's using the Kettenkrad to scout, and then he's going to try to sneak around and decrew this artillery, and maybe a teammate will have some sort of op-up to throw down on them. I don't remember if any of the factions that the Axis are playing as get op-maps, but prioritizing the boys rifle, of course, because those are effective against these armored cars, and now wants to try to decrew this, but he's under fire from this Vickers, and as we saw in the last game, Vickers are pretty strong against armored cars. They did get a slight nerf in the patch. I think their burst duration is slower, so they'll be doing a little, or not slower, shorter, so they'll be doing a little bit less damage, a little bit less suppression. But if he's, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot that 25 pounders for whatever reason could be crewed by one guy, unlike most weapons. Anyway, what's going on over here on the right? Last replay I did, Robbie Man, I think, fairly gave me a critique that I did not. I focused a lot on perhaps some of the weaker players and not the stronger players. So let's check out what's going on over here with Stormchout, Robbie Man, Whiskey Pat, some of the higher caliber players in this match. Stormchout is helping out Whiskey Pat on the right. He's shifted away from the left. So we've just got Whiskey. He's actually completely traded with Whiskey while Whiskey is servicing this tank with his freaking mech-int, which have garbage repairs. Anyway, yeah, these commandos doing some severe work on Robyman's infantry here. Picked up the Panzerschreck with these Gebirgsjägers just because they're the healthiest squad here. And it was, you know, right there. He didn't want the commandos to get it.
Enemy unit has been knocked out.
Gebirgsjägers, of course, really being primarily an ambush and anti-infantry squad. So they do get cover cloaks. So the Panzerschreck is not terrible to have on it. I don't know if they get an ambush bonus per se, but they do have the recon snipe. They've got cloak and cover, and the Panzerschreck might, if he's crafty with it, enable him to get some cheeky hits in against vehicles. Ruben, of course, as PE players are wont to do, has a mortar half-track on. Of course, Ruben is playing as Luftwaffe, not tank hunters. Tank hunters are the ones that get the extra range on mortar half-tracks that let you basically just sort of put it vaguely close to the front line and then forget about it, and it'll just rack up the kills. Unlimited doing another artillery barrage. Do they have line of sight on this? No, they don't. So this was just a blind barrage, but perhaps going for this AT gun. Didn't quite get it. Did get some damage on the gun, it looks like. Someone did anyway. But most of these troops looks like they managed to get out. There's a couple more kills on it. I saw 8. Yeah, 8 on it now. Saavedra's armored car still in the field. Managed to, I think, get back and get a little bit of repairs on it. So it's a little bit less vulnerable to these AT sappers. A Cromwell from Unlimited that I didn't see before. Looks like it took another engine crit, perhaps from the thing. Light AT half-track. Looks like Roberman is making some progress counterattacking over here with the help of Gobbo Slayer. I'm not sure what he's got in here, but he's got... Well, I could easily switch to his perspective and see, actually. Yeah, Grenadiers, healthy Volks Grenadiers, right? Just some bodies to provide some manpower for Roberman's weak squad. Roberman bringing on more Fallschirmjägers. Doesn't have G43s on them, but, you know, they're still strong squads nonetheless. Switch back to the other side here. Whiskey has another Sherman player, or Sherman tank on, as armored players tend to do. That's sort of the point. I have noticed, or I think I've noticed anyway, that Stormchout has not making particularly heavy use of these off-map abilities that he's paid for. You'd think, for example, right, he's moving in now with his Piats. He would hit proper encryption to reduce line of sight so that he can get the jump on these vehicles, but maybe he's just, well, hit a mine, distracting or baiting with these rifles and then trying to get in with the Piats. We'll turn my fog of war back on. So yeah, those are clearly here. Saavedra can almost assuredly see these Piats. He's trying to get out of there with a light AT half-track. All the Piats missing, and these Tommies just getting eaten up by this infantry half-track. And I believe what this symbol here means is that it's got the upgraded machine gun on it, and this shield means it's got the upgraded armor on it. But does go down to the focus extends, and oh god, another mine. That just hurts, right? Just losing commando guys to mines always feels bad, because commandos are expensive and valuable. Over on the right, this mortar half-track just sort of slowly picking up kills. Got some Panzerschrecks, surely going to get that Sherman, and they do. Whiskey, interestingly, doesn't appear to have the advanced repair on his engineers. Advanced repair was nerfed a little bit, actually quite substantially. I think the repair modifier is brought down to like 1.1, but they still have reduced wear and tear, 1.3 to 1.1 if I recall correctly. So that is a noteworthy nerf, but the reduced wear and tear, in spite of the fact that the sort of game pace has been sped up in the last couple patches with population changes, but there's still, I think it's still a worthy buy. So I'm kind of surprised not to see it. All right, here's Saavedra with his trademark Hotchkisses opening up. Probably going to try to destroy this 17-pounder if I had to guess. That looks like where they're coming down, and they are. And he might get some big hits in it, and a hit from the Panzerschreck from Gobbleslayer, but he's got to back off with that because of the Cromwell here. RCA getting, I think, if I recall correctly, increased accuracy from command tank commanders. That might be Scott's engineers. I'm not 100% sure. But the Hotchkiss main gun finishing off the howitzer. So that's off for unlimited. I'm sure he's got a priest in reserve. That's a thing that he just sort of tends to do. All right, we have a 105 Sherman on from Whiskey to try to attrition any pack guns the Axis might have. There's only one Wehrmacht player, but if he's lucky, maybe he'll get some cheeky hits in on the... Oh, these Piats. And if he's quick, he might get this Panzerschreck too. But it looks like, no, the Luftwaffe troops are going to get it. And Roman, yep, is going to retreat it to prevent the squad from dropping it and handing it over. Which is what I would do also, especially because Luftwaffe forces are not a great platform for that. They would have a very hard time fighting vehicles. So it looks like Robenman is in fact doing the thing that I mentioned earlier, putting Gebirgsjägers in cover to give them ambush cloak. Although, here comes the off-map. I think this is Victor Target, not Victor Target, Creeping Barrage. Because Creeping Barrage was changed in this last patch to have red flares, because it used to have a yellow flare, which was very confusing on account of the fact that infantry mortars have a yellow flare for spotting into the fog of war. So that created some telegraphing confusion. So they changed to red flare so that it's easier to tell that that is dangerous. Looks like that was not Creeping Barrage, though. That was the 25-pounder barrage, which makes sense, because if I recall correctly, the new Creeping Barrage with red flares still has the yellow flare in it. It just has red flares that come down with it. So keep an eye out for that, because I'm sure Unlimited has Creeping Barrage as well. Right? Like what LCA player doesn't, unless you're Robenman, because Robenman doesn't use howitzers, he just uses mortars, which is fair. Mortars, massed mortars are extremely strong. Honestly, probably the way to go. Realistically, howitzers I think are a little bit weak, just because they take up so much pop and they're so easy to destroy with aggressive play, as you saw. So it looks like Unlimited has got over repair on this Cromwell, so he was able to absorb a few hits, but with these two Hotchkisses here, he's going to have a hard time being outnumbered. He's getting some hits in, and he's using the flank speed to activate the RCA increased penetration, and he manages to take down one of the Hotchkisses, which I'm surprised about. I would have thought for sure that this Cromwell would just die to them, but it looks like, if I noticed correctly, the Hotchkisses were distracted shooting at something else. And the Boys AT rifles managed to finish off the Hotchkiss. Unlimited, of course, being a fan of the Boys AT because, well, it was sort of his pet project making them not suck. Boys AT, of course, not being a unit that is in VCO, so there's a little bit more wiggle room to customize them because they're more or less a custom unit. So he tweaked them heavily, and in this last patch, they were made available, not just as a doctrine unlock for RC, but just base available to all sappers from all British factions. So that's how he has them on RC and has been using them to counter these light vehicles and light tanks. This mortar half-track on from Robyman only has 6 kills on it. I haven't been keeping too close of an eye on it, but not getting quite as many kills as you might expect with a mortar half-track, but it is still on, so it has that going for it. Stormtrout just sort of chilling over here with his commandos, I guess capturing territory. Speaking of territory, the Allies are capturing some territory back. They are behind on population barely, but having the advantage on population here now is going to help them even up. It looks like all of the Axis are shifting over to the left to concentrate their forces. Whiskey having not a whole lot of luck this game, it seems, with the 105 Sherman. Just because the Axis are not using a whole lot of support weapons. I kind of like that there's only one Wehrmacht player. Speaking of support weapons, Whiskey did almost capture this pack, but the crew was shot off of it, so it looks like the Allies are just going to destroy it before... Well, a bit of miscommunication there. Stormtrout thought, I'll destroy it, and Whiskey said, on comms I'm sure, no wait, I have rifles to grab it with. And so he grabbed it. They are going to want to get this back to the healing station. They don't have an American triage center. Oh, they do. Yeah, so Whiskey is going to want to get this pack gun back to the triage center and let the weird healing aura on the triage station passively heal this gun, because this gun is one lucky hit from basically anything from being destroyed. Any explosive weapon, of course. Speaking of explosive weapons, here's the mortar half-track, but it doesn't look like... Yeah, he's just on auto-target, and it's having a hard time deciding what it wants to shoot at. Now, the Allies don't appear to see it, because if they did, I imagine Whiskey would actually try to pack creep the mortar half-track. As soon as it opens up, though, yes, it does reveal itself. Gonna try to take out this MG bunker. Whiskey misses the opportunity. And it looks like it's going to back up. Rubenman seems to be relying primarily on Fallschirmjägers now. Fewer Panzer Grenadiers on, mostly Fallschirmjägers. Only 2 of them with the G43s, and this squad heavily damaged. Gobble Slayer falling back, Axis regrouping here again, but unfortunately for them, Stormtrout is very aggressively trying to capture this right side. He's taken all these territories here. He's got a squad all the way back here to capture, and now he's going to try to hit them on the flank and pick off whatever he can with these commandos. Now, he is outnumbered by all these grenadiers, and as strong as commandos are, being outnumbered like this, it is not a good place to be. So he's going to use the captain's heroic charge to heroically charge away, but Gobble Slayer hitting the Blitzkrieg ability to chase them down, and Stormtrout, of course, suffering the exhaustion now, because after heroic charge, the units suffer an exhaustion. He's picking off these commandos, focus firing, does get one squad, but Stormtrout is using the smoke to try to get away, and he does with some troops, and now Gobble Slayer is going to back up before these tanks are able to get in, because it doesn't have very much AT on here. He's just got the one squad. Rubenman shifting over to the right to try to help a little bit, it looks like, but he also only has... Well, he's got 2 Panzerschrecks, actually, because he's got this Gebirgsjäger squad. 105 coming in, though, gets a big hit on the Gebirgsjägers. They haven't lost a man, but... Oh, there goes one, and they're heavily damaged. Gobble Slayer does get a retaliatory hit in with the Panzerschreck. Not too bad. But the thing about the 105 Sherman, it is basically just an artillery unit, so while it's on cooldown, it can afford to sit in the back and just repair with, well, any unit that's willing to repair it, I guess. But they don't really have a whole lot of repairs on. Unlimited's got these sappers, but what if these have boys on them? Nope, just the Minesweeper. I'm not sure if the boys are mutually exclusive with the Minesweeper, but at any rate, like, they're not doing anything right now, so they might as well fix up the Sherman. They don't have advanced repair because, of course, advanced repair sappers are now a separate unit with only 3 guys, so you can't cheese recruiting to get low pop pairs. But looks like he's just going to use them to fight. The Vickers, I think, was the one that took out the half-track, but all these G43s are going to decrew this AT gun, make room for the armored car to get in, and also the AT grenades going off in this AT gun. He does manage to recruit it, but, well, but nothing. Yeah, it gets off the kill, destroys the armored car. Now it's going to shoot at the light AT half-track, but it looks like it's going to get away, and we've got the Hotchkiss barrage coming down on it. Probably going to destroy the gun, and he does, but there are these tanks here. Limited going for the crush with the command tank on. Oh, that's unlucky. The AT grenade from Cervedra misses. You always hate to see that, because those things are really risky to use at close range like this. Anyway, Pantheron from Gobbo Slayer. Gonna try to get some hits on this command tank, which is fair, right? I mean, I think most players would probably go for the Cromwell, because the Cromwell has the gun and the damage engine, but if you can destroy command tanks, that's always a nice thing to do, just because command tanks give pretty significant buffs to whatever vehicles, and Unlimited has been using vehicles quite a bit this game now that he's lost his howitzer. And now all these vehicles are just running away. Oh, damage engine with the rear hit on the Panther. Of course, there you are more likely to get criticals if you get rear armor hits, and he does. Slide AT half-track on from this paint trap bounces on the machine gun emplacement. The mortar comes in and finishes it off, so that leaves Robyman's infantry to come in and just chew apart these poor riflemen. Hey, 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 hey. Got some walking wounded on from Unlimited, but not really anything that's good to crew. If you were to put them in this bunker, they would crew the Vickers that's still in there, but with a Panther here, that wouldn't really be very productive. The Panzer Strike comes in and blows up this whole squad out of the Vickers emplacement. That sucks. So, Axis, by concentrating the forces, appear to be making some ground back, but this right side is almost completely undefended except for this Tommy squad. And that is forcing the Axis to lose population now. You see they're at 38, they're losing half a pop a minute. Robyman, of course, in his shoutcast is always ready to point out, hey, why would you attack where the enemy is concentrated when you could attack where they're not? And it looks like right now the Axis are not doing that. Robyman more interested in supporting his allies with his elite infantry to chew apart the basic infantry from the allies, so that his teammates, who are primarily relying on vehicles right now, aside from this infantry from Gobbo Slayer, to advance, because the last thing you want to do, here's the sniper on also, the last thing you want to do is send vehicles in and unescorted, because that's prime opportunity for them to get ambushed. Speaking of ambushing, here is the Achilles on from Unlimited. This is a custom unit that's just sort of been sitting in the files for a while, not implemented, because no one's really had any interest or time to try to get it in a ready state. But in this recent patch, Unlimited has put sort of a live beta test iteration of the Achilles in for people to just sort of try out. And I think he's been the primary person trying it out, because I think he's the primary person trying RCA. And this tank, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think it's basically a slightly weaker, whoa, look at that hit, Firefly gun, like a little bit shorter range, a little bit less penetration, which is a little silly because, I mean, it's the same gun, but I mean, Company Heroes, that would not be the first time two identical units were completely different in their stats. But it's more or less an M10 chassis, I think, slightly weaker Firefly gun, and very bad turret rotation. And so it's meant to be sort of a defensive unit for RCA that is meant to be used more or less in the way that the Canadians used the Achilles in real life, which is basically, well, the way tank turrets are supposed to be used, which is a sort of backline unit where they would dig it in, like Scott's engineers can do in this game, and use it at long range. Because of course the Achilles and the M10 Wolverine both have hand-cranked turrets, so the Canadians and the Americans had very different philosophies for mitigating that. Canadians doing what I just said, using it from a hull-down position at long range, whereas the Americans would patrol with their M10s just side by side, one pointing like 45 degrees to the left and the other pointing 45 degrees to the right. That way, if an enemy attacked from the side, at least one of them would be able to shoot at it. So that is a little historical tidbit that gets me some amusement. At any rate, yeah, M10 taking a big hit from the Panzerschreck, so it's just sort of sitting in the back while the engineers fix up this Cromwell. Are these advanced repair guys? I guess they are. Advanced repair guys with boys, which is interesting. Over-repairing the Cromwell. Personally, I would shift these engineers over to the M10. But at any rate, got a Stuart Reckion from Unlimited using to spot some line of sight for Stormtrout to use his last artillery barrage on the 88. We'll see what that manages to do. I will say, I don't think the Allies are in super good position to actually attack to take advantage of that. If you're going to do something like that, you want to be able to move in and destroy it while it's decrewed, or capture it while it's decrewed. And I don't think the Allies were really in a position to do that. So a little bit of a waste of the last off map, in my opinion, because Gobble Slayer was able to just come in with his Volksgrenadiers that he's got on to recrew it. Probably a better way to have done that was to decrew the MG instead, although I don't know if they had line of sight with it from the Stuart Recce. But a better way to do it, maybe scout it with the sniper. Drop the artillery on the MG. Maybe even drop the decoy artillery on the MG to force it to displace, and then drop the heavy artillery on the 88. And then move in with basically just everything that you got. But unfortunately the Allies didn't do that.
NCOs reporting they have destroyed a German target.
We do have proper encryption active, which scrambles the map for the Axis. I wonder if we can see that. We can't. But it scrambles the map for the Axis and also reduces line of sight of their units. It's a great thing to use when the enemy is attacking you or when you are attacking the enemy, so that you can sort of get the jump on them out of range of their line of sight. 105 shooting, only 4 kills on this thing. In a building. Being very careful to avoid getting into line of sight of the 88, but this anti-tank gun, getting a square hit on it on the gun. Interesting that Unlimited has the captain on. I guess the captain does get the sector buff, but I imagine usually if you're playing RCA, you would want to bring the captain on about the same time that you bring your howitzer on, so that you can take advantage of the victor target. It makes the captain a little bit more pop efficient. Of course, it's sort of counteracted by the pop inefficiency of the artillery, but I mean, whatever. That's the RCA gimmick at any rate. Big rear hit from the 88 on the command tank. It's trying to get the crush, but it's got the over repair, so it was able to take a couple hits, but not enough because the bikes from Gobble Slayer were managing to block it right in line of sight of the 88. Very unfortunate for Unlimited. I don't know if the Devils would get on. I wonder if these have demo charges to just try to blow up the 88. At any rate, Gobble Slayer does have these bikes on, I'm sure, to try to counteract the sniper from Whiskey, which has gotten 14 kills now. Not too bad. It's been on for a while, but 14 kills is not terrible. Manages to get a bar of veterancy since it came on. So just whittling away at the Axis troops. And the Axis don't have a, what do you call that thing? Medic bunker on to try to get walking wounded. Of course, Blitz I don't think gets any kind of bonus for their bunker, but still, it's a nice thing to have if you have the spare munitions. And cool. Main gun off from the Tetrarch. Wonder what that's from. Not sure. Oh, the landmine destroyed engine. This Tetrarch is just totally crippled. Love to see if the Axis are able to finish it off, or if they just leave it here to soak up pop, because it's going to take a while to repair. A little bit of bringing his sappers over to take care of that. Wonder what these recon Tommies are doing here. Besides being pinned. Ah, the M10 has a cloak on it. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. I don't know if that's really necessary. 105 coming in. Big overshoot. Well, minor overshoot, but just enough to not really do anything to these troops. See how much damage these Devil's Brigade are able to do. Not a whole lot against these guys sprinting away. Mortar's coming in, doing a little bit of damage, and it's going to want to get these guys out of here. So Vadra's half-track coming in with some assault troops in it. Nope. G43s maybe. Big AT hit from the AT gun that took the 88 hit earlier. But Unlimited taking casualties from these Devil's Brigade. They're suppressed. This Panzer Grenadier is desperately trying to do something. I think they get the point-blank Panzerfaust before they die. Hate to be these guys, but, you know, they're Nazis, so it's fine, I guess. Panzer IV from Goblet Slayer. Fully upgraded. Got the skirts and the MG. Those are fun. 15 kills on the mortar half-track now, 16, so it's slowly starting to make its money back. Of course, the thing with mortars is, you know, sometimes they don't necessarily get as many kills as you'd like, but they do a lot of damage just sort of softening up the enemy, forcing them to fall back and heal, decrewing important weapons to let you take advantage of them being decrewed. Which frankly I would not see a huge amount of from either side of this game, actually. Like, there's weapons being decrewed occasionally, but never a push to follow up and try to destroy or capture them from either side. The 88, of course, being the most prominent example of that, but not a huge number of weapons changing sides. The Allies did get a pack, which I'm not sure where it is, but what are these sappers up to? I guess probably trying to cap, right? Stormtrap did basically just wholly switch to the right here, and has done for some time, but these sappers just gonna sit here and be sacrificial lambs to draw. Oh, so a little bit of damage in from the 105, but Robomen paying attention, managed to get out of the way, finish off the sappers. Not a great team matchup for the 105 Sherman. This lieutenant is in a lot of trouble. Does have the commando smoke from Commando Doctrine unlock, and he does have his heroic charge to get out of the way. Stormtrooper getting a lot of mileage out of the heroic charge this game. Some players think it's not really worth the investment, but as commandos, it's definitely worth it to be able to give fire up essentially to your commandos. So AT gun might go down to the Hotchkiss barrage, does not. Getting some hits on this Robovan. Roboman's able to back up. See if it gets hit on the... No, it does go down. To the bikes, maybe? I don't know. Goblet Slayer been doing a pretty decent job with these bikes in all ways except for destroying the sniper, which has 20 kills now. But he's down to 2, it looks like. Here comes the Achilles, overhealed now. You can see the turret rotation much slower than the M10's turret rotation. Not terrible, but in a sort of maneuver battle like this, or what could have been a maneuver battle, Panzer IV would have been able to outmaneuver it, but didn't need to with Robomen's Panzerschreck blob here to finish it off. Now this Panzer IV is more or less free. Well, it was more or less free to come in and do as it. Jesus, for a second I thought the sniper's gonna get crushed. It kind of didn't notice that it was friendly, but it does open up and reveal itself, so he's gonna pull off, save the vet and the resupply before the Panzer crushes it, which was almost certain to happen. This Blitz officer is going to go down though, and M10 on from Whiskey finishes it off. So, unfortunate for whoever that belonged to. I forget who red player is. Goblet Slayer. SAS Jeep on from Stormtrout. Taking a lot of damage from this infantry half-track with the upgraded gun, but he does manage to finish it off. These Jeeps do have a lot of firepower on them with the Bren gun and the whatever this is. I don't know what gun that is, but at any rate, he's got the crew repair on it as well. I think this is universal repair. I think they just come with it. I don't think you have to unlock that. So that, of course, being a unique repair that does not have wear and tear on it, which is nice because you only get it on light vehicles. It's a little bit unnecessary, honestly, to have wear and tear because they're so fragile anyway. These British takers have not been doing a huge... Oh, I think these are new ones, actually. I don't know what happened to the other ones. I guess they're gone now. Roverman, very low on stuff. He's got one platoon left in reserve and is losing the last of his troops. Also dropped a Panzerschreck here for the Allies to try to grab. Gobble Slayer coming in with these Stoogs to try to ward off these vehicles, but he's outnumbered with the Cromwell and the Whiskey Pat. Lots of Cromwells this game. Cromwells gets a lot of hate. I think players think it's not very good. Personally, I think it's a little bit underrated. Yeah, the armor class isn't good, and the moving accuracy isn't good, but the flank speed is just such a powerful ability. And the stationary accuracy against infantry is not too bad. This captain, very lucky. I'm surprised we haven't seen a priest on from Unlimited. Maybe he doesn't have one, which I think is unusual. I think he usually has one. New truck on from Robyman. This is probably an 88. He is playing Luftwaffe. To replace the... Well, no. To get two 88s? Because Gobble Slayer has one on still. But yeah, this is Robyman's last unit. So, I mean, yeah, he's got it on. All these light vehicles on from Savages. I mean, that's sort of what he does. Armored car, too. Not a whole lot these things can do against all these medium tanks that the Allies are fielding, though. The Jumbo Sherman was moved to infantry, so that's probably why we haven't seen... Whoa, what a mortar hit. Jumbo tank was moved to infantry. Okay, here's that demo charge from the Devil's Brigade, and he does have smoke grenades on these troops, so they're going to be able to get that off. So that's 188 down. See if these guys get out. They do not. This captured Vickers finishes them off. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the Jumbo Sherman was moved in this last patch from armor to infantry, which... I mean, it was done to try to give an alternate playstyle to infantry besides just zombie recycling with the med tents. Having played a number of games with it, probably at least 10 now, I don't think that was a good move. I was very skeptical about it to begin with. I tried to give it a go, and it just does not work as well in infantry as it did in armored, and it's not as fun to use. You get one use out of it, basically, and then the crew repair on it does come with it, but at any rate, what I'm getting at, it's probably why we haven't seen one from Whiskey this game. He's just using standard Shermans in the 105, which I haven't seen in a while. Maybe it was destroyed, or maybe he pulled it off because it wasn't really being very successful. How much platoons does he have left, anyway? Two. The Allies are now losing pop very slowly. Down to only 39, which is basically a meaningless difference. So the Axis will have to push up more and gain more territory to... Oh wow, unlucky. The demo charge only decrewed the 88. It did not finish it off. So this could be recrewed if the Axis have spare troops to crew with, but it looks like they don't. And down to just this elite infantry. Saavedra, of course, being a light vehicle fiend, Gobble Slayer got these Stoogs on, and this Ostwind. So Gobble Slayer is all on, it's just vehicles. So it looks like, in spite of the fact that the demo charge didn't finish off the 88, the Axis are just going to rely on this one from Robyman instead of recrewing it, which is fair. Because infantry is... I mean, tanks are... Whoa, look at these Panzerschrecks. Tanks are valuable units, but infantry, if you run out of infantry, you lose, almost assuredly, just because you can't cap. Not a guaranteed. I have been in some games where the side that only has vehicles left still managed to win just because the other side was out of anti-tank, but... At any rate, what I'm getting at is the Axis are in a little bit of a precarious spot just because they're out of troops. They've just got these vehicles. Stormtrout has one more platoon in reserve, but he's all vehicles as well. Getting some decent mileage out of this Cromwell. He's been able to just sort of recycle it a lot. Not too many kills, but been doing some decent damage against vehicles. Whiskey's Sherman in trouble. Probably going to go down to these Stoogs, which is a nice win for Gabo on account of the fact that Whiskey is all on. Does go down. Whiskey down to just this Jeep. So I think the Allies are going to be a little bit on the back foot here in spite of the fact that they have more infantry, just because the Axis have so many vehicles and the Allies are losing vehicles. Now, Unlimited does have the 17-pounder on, which could get a lot of damage in on these Stoogs, especially if he has AP rounds, which it looks like he does. I think that was most of the hit points off on this Stoog there. I didn't see how much I had before, but only going to get one shot off, it looks like, because of the line of sight here with the hedges, and so Gobble is going to get the hell out of there and maybe hopefully repair. Savadra's tank hunters, and I think tank hunters, Kettenkrabs are the ones that can repair. I don't really play Panzer Elite, so I'm not 100% sure. Alright, Roboman did crew the 88. Not sure with what. I hope it wasn't Fallschirmjägers. Let's see if we can tell. Luftwaffe forces. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Never saw those. But they aren't really doing a huge amount of damage, unfortunately, for the Axis. How's this mortar half-track doing? I wonder if this is the same mortar half-track or replacement, but it's only got 6 kills on it. I don't remember how many the one that we looked at before had. This Cromwell is taking a lot of damage. We do have the Jackson on from Whiskey. And this is typically something that I do when I'm playing Armored, is you save the Jackson for last, because that's sort of when it's most potent. Assuming the other side has vehicles left. There's less to counter it if it's the last unit you bring. Also, the other reason why I would save it for last is because until this last patch, it didn't get access to vehicle crew repairs. So it was sort of hard to keep alive unless there were fewer units to fight back against it. Also, a lot of Axis players would save their heavy tanks for last to try to overrun after whittling down the AT, so it's also when it's more useful. In either of those situations, it's useful to have, but I'm sure he probably has the crew repairs on it now, because that was finally implemented in the last patch, along with a lot of other doctrine abilities that finally apply to reward units. Although saying that, the Jackson was moved to... It was swapped with the Easy 8. The Easy 8 is the reward unit now, and the Jackson is available to everyone, which I suppose is nice. The Jackson is a pretty strong unit, probably the preferable one to have. A nice toolkit into the Allied, especially the American inventory of tools in their toolbox. Destroyed a thing. A wreck to stop the Bürgertiger, which the Axis do still have. Kettenkrad and the Bürgertiger with its lockdown ability to spawn repair pioneers, fixing up Gaba Slayer's Stoogs. They are back up to a lot of total, relative hit points, but there are total hit points, of course, with the wear and tear are shrinking. Not as badly as they could be, because, you know, these repairs are pretty good, but the more you recycle these, the more that affects it. Savadra's armored car does go down. It had a good number of kills on it, but now its days are over. Savadra has more Hotchkisses. These ones, oh, you know what? These were revived by the Bürgertiger. That's why they don't have the rockets on them, because when you revive a unit, it spawns back without upgrades. Staghound from Stormtrout's doing okay for itself. 13 kills, as Staghounds do, because they're basically just hard counter to infantry. Stormtrout doing a good back cap back here. The Axis now losing pop much more aggressively than the Allies were losing pop, so they're down to 39 now. But I mean, at this stage, I think the Axis are all on, so it doesn't really matter. The main reason to do this at this stage is to try to win by either territory gain or population loss. It's just a nice thing to work for, just so that if it comes to it, yeah, here it is, right? The Allies have taken so much territory, they're about to cut the Axis off completely, and they could just win in two minutes and 40 seconds if the Axis don't stop this. I don't recall if territory connection is important in this mod like it is in Vico. Like, if this gets cut off, do these territories count? I don't know. I'll have to ask someone. It seems like a worthwhile thing to know. But I say that because the Axis are pushing up a little bit to take advantage of the fact that there's not really any allies in front of them, but that is doing very little to counteract this timer. 88 now faced around in the other direction to shoot at these vehicles along with the Stug, but the Stug is taking a lot of damage, and it does go down to something. Didn't see what. So that's unfortunate. That's Dr. Nick's last Stug, I think. The Jackson here gonna do, well, someone. The boys AT rifle with this stag hound, I don't know. Taking out the Hotchkiss. And this medic half-track. I think the Allies might have this one. The 88 is a little bit of a problem, but, like, oh man. Yeah, no, that was the half-track going down. It is a little bit of a problem, but the Allies are able to use these shotblockers in their long range, and their surplus of infantry to just capture this territory. They don't need to actually fight the 88 or the Vickers here. Cool. Yeah. Other thing about the Jack. Oh, there goes that mortar. Gobble Slayer's out. Gobble Slayer was Axis, I think, right? I don't remember. Gobble Slayer was Blitz, so yeah, Gobble Slayer was Axis. I think the Allies have this one. We'll speed it up a little bit because it's slowed down a bit and see what the Allies do here. But what I was going to say is the Jackson, being the Pershing HVAP gun with more range, as far as tank destroyers go, is definitely above average for sniping infantry. And yeah, that appears to be the Axis pulling off, so there it is. 4 vehicles and 2 tanks on the Jackson. Not too bad. I was going to try to come in and finish off the 88 just for the greed XP. And there it is. Alright, well done to the Allies. What's his name? Blue player. Stormtrout did a great job capturing territory this game. It never really made that much of a difference until this very end when they were able to put pressure on the Axis to try to get aggressive with their very few remaining units. And that did not pay off for them. Like, they had to do it. There's no other option, but they were not in a good position to do that with all these vehicles and infantry that the Allies still had left, and the Axis were completely surrounded, which is not where you want to be. So yeah, the Axis or the Allies were basically able to force the Axis's hand by this aggressive backcap from Stormtrout and the flanking maneuver with all these vehicles. Right? The Axis just burned through the rest of their units trying to stop that, and the Allies won. So, well done. That's what I mean by, you know, if you run out of infantry, you're toast. But the Allies also did a great job just sort of systematically destroying all these vehicles that the Axis had. The Jackson, of course, playing no small part in that. Cromwell also not doing too bad, having 2 light vehicle kills, probably Saavedra's multitude of light vehicle kills. Staghound doing great, as Staghounds do. Solid unit. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say. Commiserations to the Axis, well done to the Allies. That's that. Alright, I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks to Stormtrout for posting this replay for us to view. Okay, catch you on the next one.